Hey everyone, it's time for another weekly rant with your hosts Will and Simon. Simon, what are you talking about today?
Well, what do we want to talk about today? I want to talk about Ethereum withdrawals. Actually, the
Hmm.
Chappella upgrade's gone along. How has it tracked? Is it doom and gloom? Is Ethereum unsecured now because everyone's withdrawing from the staking mechanisms? The answer is no. The answer is no. There's not that much people withdrawing. What do you
We
think? How
we looked at
successful
it.
has Chappella been?
We looked at it a while back, and I think you mentioned that there was a bit of ETH that was targeted for withdrawal, but I haven't followed up yet. Is is Ethereum not secure? Should we withdraw our tokens?
Well, basically, where it's at, from what I can see, is that it was around about the 19 million mark of Ethereum that was staked. It's down
Mm.
now to about 18.5 million. So it's had 500,000 ETH unstaked. There's still another 750,000 ETH in the withdrawal phase, and that takes a while to come out. And that'll be like another, I don't know, it's like 10 to 15 days for that much money to come out. But at the same time,
Wow.
deposits are going up as well. So not at the same rate. So we're definitely seeing a decline in the amount of Ethereum staked, but there is some going back in. And so
That's
what I'm seeing there is that I think that we are not yet having this huge withdrawal phase. We're not seeing a large dump of Ethereum on the market. We are probably seeing some large exchanges moving some money out, which I think people have identified some of the biggest withdrawals are some of the big exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, and Binance. But we're also seeing an increase in like solo stakers. We're seeing an increase in Rocket Pool and Lido. So I think people are moving some of their stake
mm,
around, spreading their risk around to a degree.
that is really encouraging and exciting, and it's also great for Ethereum holders. That's pretty much another reason to hold ETH. You're securing the network, you're getting a bit of money as well. And there's probably some people who hold enough ETH to sustain them through the bear market as long as they stick to the protocol. Maybe the amount they're getting out there is enough to, I guess, pay for their bills.
Potentially,
Anybody
but
who got into ETH, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I saw the other day. It's dropped now by the looks of it, but it was up at about 6.5% annual yield. So that's huge. You're earning 6.5% Ethereum as well. So if you held that for a few more years, obviously it's going to do really well for you. It's going to be significantly more. So we talk
Mm,
about the base rate, the risk-free rate, sorry, the risk-free rate of yield on blockchain, and that's what Ethereum effectively has now. And so when you're looking at trying to earn yield, trying to do any kind of DeFi stuff, you got to go back to the question of, well, can I do better than, let's just call it the average of 5% of staking my Ethereum, because that's the risk-free rate these days. So
wow.
I think it's a really nice, safe amount to be earning in yield. It's incredible.
Mm.
And we don't see ETH going away anytime soon. There's just no, if ETH goes away, crypto's gone away entirely. So it's just not happening anymore. So why wouldn't you participate in
Oh
this now?
yeah. Oh yeah. And imagine living a time where you're able to not kind of just hold stock in something, but your stock is actually a useful commodity. It's actually there, it's earning you money, but it's also securing essentially what we call the world computer. Uh, I think that's really amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, ETH is definitely one of my favorite currencies, and if I'm not sure what to hold, I either hold Bitcoin or Ethereum.
It's good advice. It's
Yeah,
not financial
it's
advice. So the other thing, look,
yeah, it's yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, let's move on to the next topic then, because let's talk about price. I'm not sure if you've noticed, Bill, but we've had a hell of a volatile week. We've literally, in the space of a week, gone up 10%, come down 10%, off the back of probably some, fairly macro news events, really. Like we had in the US, another major bank, First Republic, had a massive bank run, and so that bank
Mm,
is like basically its stock price has crashed like greater than, I don't know, like 70% or something rather before they stopped the stock market. which is something they can do in the stock market. They can't
yeah,
do that with crypto. They can't stop the price from continually crashing. So that
yeah,
caused a lot of
yeah.
fear, caused a rush to Bitcoin as well, because Bitcoin bounced off the news, and then Bitcoin just crashed straight back down again. So crazy stuff, crazy price movements. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I just think it's important not to get so emotional. I think that's something that we've both learned to do over the years. In that, Bitcoin is definitely going to be volatile, and this is just one of many. We went through a quiet period once we hit the bottom, where any bad news wouldn't send it down, but great news wouldn't send it back up. And I feel that now that we're back in the bull run, this news is going to start like really getting into swing. And this is just one of those. This is just one of many to come. Just
Yeah,
sit back and enjoy
and
it.
I mean we've seen crazy bull market kind of things with that meme coin Pepe, which came from nowhere to doing 100,000%. And there's all those stupid things out there saying, oh, if you invested $100 in it, 2 weeks ago, you'd have like $10 million now. Ridiculous price movements on something that's completely worthless. That's proper bull market
Mm,
craziness kind of thing. That's a little bit too early in my mind for something like that to do so well. But it also shows that
mm,
retail is starting to come around again, because that's really the more immature, unsophisticated investor who's more gambling than investing, doing those activities. And maybe there's some people who have got a bit of extra pocket money, I guess, to splash around and gamble on these things.
yeah.
But that's definitely like the crazy euphoric bull market kind of attitudes when a meme coin can pump like that.
Oh yeah, and I guess the really new investor doesn't realize that there's these pump and dump schemes that have existed for years, probably even since the stocks. And once you hang around in Discord long enough, you get an invite to get into them. But then the problem is that even if you do, you realize it in the outer layer, and you pretty much, I guess, hope that there's somebody who's not in that scheme who will buy it off you. But at the core, there's two, three, four, five people who've got a huge Discord following, and they essentially say, "Let's pick Pepe coin and let's pump it." And they hope that somebody from the outside is going to buy it, and I guess that's how they make their money, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's marketing, it's hype driven,
yeah,
it's influencer driven,
yeah.
and it's funny that why did this one do so well compared to others? I don't think anyone really knows why. It just had the right
Mm,
combination of the right influence, the right push, and the right momentum.
mm.
But it's not a good investment, and most people
And it
probably lose money on it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and it probably brings us back to the thing that we keep repeating in that the slow game really does win the race in the long term. It's more risk free, and during the bear, as we've been doing, is we look for interesting projects, we try and accumulate them, we do assessments, and we've kind of set up our base and our rocket ship in that it's pretty solid. And I guess now is the time to strap on. And I do really like that strategy where it's kind of relaxed. You've got your rules, you do everything right, and usually, when the bull hits, you say, "I knew it was coming. It's about time," and you're not caught up chasing different tokens that may or may not make you money. You kind of have a plan that should make you money,
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that would be
and
great
yeah.
if we could, reach out, especially to new people coming into the space. Is that is the true method to actually make a lot of wealth through crypto. But the general cycle is people get caught in the hype. They don't understand what market cap is, and what unit bias is. They just see something that's worth fractions of cents and think, oh, that could go to thousands and thousands of dollars like Bitcoin, not understanding market cap. So everyone bets little bits of money in all these things and tends to lose money. And so people just leave the space at that point in time. They've lost, a couple $100, maybe a couple $1,000, and they leave the space, which is not great for them. They go out, crypto's a scam, it's all a scam, and that perpetual narrative that it's a scam kind of continues because people get burnt. Unfortunately, it's very hard to
Hmm.
get people from avoiding that. I did that when I first got into crypto. I think everyone kind of does to a degree, but then some
Uh,
people stick around. Some people go, no, 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 there was something here. I
mm,
was just being a bit silly. And
mm.
those people who stick around go through that journey and they do end up coming back to a bit more of a, okay, I'm not going to get rich in a month's time, but maybe in a couple of years' time. And if I focus on this and I put most of my money into the larger caps that are proven, and I
Mm.
still have some money to go and invest in some of these other, you know, projects out there, they're the ones who succeed because they stuck around.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure we've all got friends who know that we're in blockchain, and I guess when the bull hits and we're pretty much at 70% of the bull, that's when they come back and they say, hey, here Bitcoin's doing really well, I'd like to put something on it. And I usually tell them, no, no, you want to hold back, let it crash. Some of them actually do, and then they come back at the end of the crash. But then others actually just go, nah, I'm going to give it a try. And they also jump into all these other little coins
Yeah.
as well. And the sad thing, like you mentioned, is they do end up losing that money, and then they go, "Oh, crypto's a scam." Uh, yeah, and then they're back 2, 3 years later
I,
when Bitcoin
I
is up
also have
again.
that friend who is a buy and sell indicator for me. There's no doubt about that. They just seen that the hype in the news. It's either the hype or the fear, and that's when they come and tell me about it. And that's like, okay, this is a good time to buy, or this is a good time to sell. Uh, and that's fine. Look, if people don't want to get interested in the space, that's fine. What I don't like, I guess, is the people who dabble and lose money and walk away entirely. Like, I think
Mm,
people who are here for a few years recognize that unfortunately losing a bit of money at the start is part of the crypto journey and part of your learning curve. You know, we make mistakes, and so we've got to learn from those mistakes. And people who stick around definitely learn from them and do well. People who give up and walk away, well, they're not
yeah.
learning from their mistakes, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such an interesting game as well. I like seeing it as a game because then I'm not so sort of stuck in it. It doesn't get so serious. And at the same time, as long as I don't put money as long as I only put money that I'm willing to lose, it's actually a game. It's fun. It's not as boring as stonks. Stonks like they're terrible. Like I mean they're good instruments, but they're just not as fun as crypto. You don't get as much interaction with the founders. You can't go to the Discord and uh, literally shit talk with the founders, who, by the way, are extremely smart. Like Vitalik is probably a billionaire as far as I know. I was listening to a podcast the other day where he says that he gifted, I think it was something close to 1 billion, and I don't know how much he had left. And that wasn't even of Ethereum. I think it was of Shiba Inu tokens. And he doesn't take himself seriously. He's on Discords or GitHub and with his unicorn shirts. So there's smart guys out there. They're interesting to talk to. It's fun and it doesn't take itself so seriously. And it's also changing the world, which is
It's
kind of
very nice
nice,
to
right?
change the world, but I'm going to actually disagree with you there very strongly. I don't think people should be treating it as a
Mm,
game. I come from a very much so investing background,
okay.
and so I think people need to treat their money with more respect than that. So it's not a game. You're trying to make money. So I think people need to have a plan and a strategy and actually execute on that strategy. You're not speculating here. Like, it's okay to have a little bit of money that you want to throw around in some small coins, but do that knowing that you're likely to use your.
Mm. No, no, I do agree with you to some extent, but I think how I see it is that, I mean, to agree with you, there's definitely rules. Like you need to have rules in there, and we don't want to just go willy nilly on any token or anything like that. But perhaps this is where you and I might differ a little bit in that I think it's important to not have uh, emotions tied too strongly into it. And I guess that's what I mean by game, in that if it gets to a point where it's causing sleepless nights or anything like that, I think that is a signal to pull out the tokens. I noticed you had dropped out, so I just
Well
kept
done.
talking.
Way to keep carrying it.
'Cause
Way to keep carrying
honestly,
it. I think the industry's hurt by
but
this concept that you can get rich really quick. And you can't get rich really quick. Nothing's that simple in life.
Mm,
Sure, you're going to hear a story about some bloke who did really well. They're the exception, not the rule. Most people lose money when they're
mm,
chasing that kind of quick fix. And so you can get rich faster than any other asset class out there at the moment. That's definitely what crypto can do. I think that's an
mm,
absolute truth about the market, but
mm.
you got to be smart about it. You got
And-
to have a plan and a strategy and treat your money with respect is a big one, I feel.
oh yeah, and I think the difference is that some people they want to chase they literally want to chase the bull. It's like they've got a spear and they're running after the bull, and sometimes they end up beating a bear and getting mauled by it. But really, what they should be doing is setting traps for the bull. And some people are good enough to actually set bear traps where they bet against the market and also make the money, money downwards as well. But yeah, it's all about setting the bull traps and that let's get ready early. Let's decide what we're investing in, collect our tokens. And also I think the key thing is not to have the emotions too tied into it, because at that point then it actually even becomes hard to make decisions. And unfortunately, I think when it gets to a point where there's sleepless nights, high blood pressure or anything like that, at that point, for me, whether it's a bull or a bear, whether I've made $1,000 or $20,000, it doesn't matter. For me, that is a clear signal to get out of that specific project or
Yeah,
even the
absolutely. Yeah,
market
sleeping well at night is
entirely.
a huge part of it. I'm going to challenge, I guess, another concept which is pushed a lot in crypto is that don't put in more money than you can afford to lose. And so I agree with that statement in the fact that if
Mm,
you are on a day by day basis putting in your rent money or your food money, thinking that you're going to make some money overnight or in a week's time and that's okay, that's not okay. That's definitely money you can't afford to lose. But put the analogy of people who invest in property. A lot of people invest in property when they buy a property and put that deposit in, is that money that they can afford to lose? Well, they're not going to starve, but it's definitely not money that
mm,
they want to lose. And so, you to make large gains, to make
mm,
life changing amounts of money, you're taking on risk. It is probably money that you don't want to lose, can you survive if it all goes away? Yeah, you probably can because your rent's going to be covered, your food's going to be covered, but you need to have skin in the game. You need to be taking on
mm,
risk. So the concept of don't put in more than you can afford to lose, that's not true because people can't afford to lose huge amounts of money, but that allows you to, I
mm,
guess, stress your risk tolerance, which will push people more towards putting more money in Bitcoin,
mm,
more money in Ethereum, less money in the next Pepe out there.
mm. I do think though that it's important to, in order to manage emotions, I think that we need to have sort of the mental preparedness in that it could go to zero. Sometimes, well, I personally don't think Bitcoin or Ethereum will ever go to zero. Uh, and even, decent projects do drop pretty heavily in the bear market. They might drop 50, 60, 70%, maybe even more. But then there's tokens out there that on the surface may look interesting and, they have gone to zero. Recent case being Luna. So I think it's very important to kind of have that mentality before even the money goes in, so that if a Luna event ever happens, God forbid, the mind should go like, it could happen. I knew that it could happen when I put it in, and I got hit. And hopefully the person was diversified, because then if you're diversified, I mean it's a loss, but it's not a 90% loss on everything. But yeah, like these laws are so important, diversification, everything. But I also feel like there's an emotional component as well that we need to go into investing with, because we need to have really hardy emotions, because those prices do fluctuate like crazy,
Yeah, and that only
especially in
comes with
crypto.
spending some time understanding the markets, and unfortunately, might only come with experiencing that cycle and
Mm,
experiencing your portfolio going down by 80% kind of thing.
mm.
That's
Oh yeah.
again a lesson that some people have to learn the hard way. I've certainly learned that one the hard way for sure.
Oh yeah.
It'd be great to avoid. It would have been great to avoid it
I
more,
think we
and I think
all.
I did avoid it better than
I,
others,
I
but I didn't do as good as I should have. But
yeah.
I think everybody would say that about any investment.
Mm,
especially crypto. I could have done better. Is always the answer, but
mm,
doing well enough is probably pretty good in crypto. I would also add that look,
mm,
your risk tolerance is obviously an individual thing, and as you said, putting money into Luna and it going to zero, yeah, that could have wrecked a lot of people if they weren't all in on it. And then you to I
mm,
guess reduce that risk. It's all about understanding. It's all about building up that conviction in a project. And Luna is, it's the unicorn out there of the worst of the worst. It was an incredibly successful project, and then had a spectacular crash.
mhm,
So that's more of the exception to the rule. Normally, they have a slightly slower decline than falling off a cliff. So that's yeah, that's rough. That's for sure. And if you had everything in that one, it wouldn't be great. But that again comes with some experience and some conviction, some
Oh yeah.
understanding of what the project actually does. Helps, and it helps you reduce your risk. It's kind of like
Mm.
I if I went to go
Oh
build a
yeah.
house, it would be incredibly risky because I don't know how to build a house. But funnily enough, to a builder, building a house is not risky because he does it all the
Mm,
time. And so it's the same with investing in crypto. I have a really good understanding of
mm,
crypto. I've had a really good understanding of projects. I have reduced my level of risk because I can see better options out there. I can see the faults of options. And so people need to spend the time to learn that. And if they don't want to spend the time to learn that,
mm,
probably stick with Bitcoin and Ethereum.
mm. That's a really good rule. In fact, now that you mention it, I'm not sure how wide your portfolio is, but mine isn't too wide. I hold a handful of tokens, and when you think about it, there's so many tokens coming out all the time. There's thousands. I don't even know how many there are. And I guess it's all about saying no more often than it is about saying yes. And when I see new people in crypto, they tend to get really excited. They see a project out there, and it might be insuring something, or it might be an AI thing, and it's kind of the keyword that gets them. But then there's so many other things that they need to look at, and I feel like part of the rules we've already talked about the rules in terms of market seasonality, dollar cost averaging, and everything like that. But I believe that there's probably some interesting rules that we could talk about at some point that involve
Yeah,
how to filter these
absolutely.
projects.
And it's not easy though. And
Um,
for the amateur
yeah.
out there, there's risk. And I guess that's people just
Mm,
have to learn. The main thing they've
mm,
got to learn is understanding what risk they're actually taking in a lot of these projects. And it's significant. It's significant risk on these lower cap
mm.
coins. And a lot of the projects we've talked about in plenty of our podcasts, there is significant risk in them.
Oh yeah, yeah. And there's so many projects out there that are just me too with a little tweak, and you kind of look at them and they might say, "Oh yeah, yeah, we're also a lending protocol, but we're on layer two." And some people get excited about that, but I usually go, "Oh man, like what's gonna make all that capital move to this new thing on this new layer two?" So like you mentioned, like you probably gotta take some time learning these rules and being in the environment for a while to understand how, yeah, all of these parts interplay with each other. But it's definitely something that investors need
For
to learn, and
sure,
you're
for
always
sure. And
learning
we're not
something
in
and
the
better
area
with
where
different
the
people
new people
as
are
well.
coming into the market yet. Like, it's interesting. I've got a theory that's going on right now in that when you talk about a new layer two, and then there is the Me Too's, there's the lending platform, there's the swaps, there's, derivative platforms being built on all these layer twos, all these Me Too's out there. What's actually happening right now, I think, is liquidity is just moving from Ethereum or another layer two to the new shiny one. And this is all crypto natives, and they're all chasing that cow. So they're all kind of like knowing that I'm going to move into this because it's new, it's going to pump, and I'm going to try and exit early. So it's all crypto natives within the space, just cycling liquidity around, and
Mm.
they're all trying to pinch pennies off each other at the moment. I feel so. Retail aren't in that space. Retail are not going to layer twos, and they're not experimenting on these new things at the moment. It's just crypto degens
Oh
clipping
yeah,
at each other's
yeah.
heads.
Yeah, it's just crypto degens chasing. like you say, chasing that extra 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever it is. And once that percent is no longer on offer, well, back to Ethereum
It's
with the
exactly
six
it. It's
percent.
exactly how we started this conversation is how we kind of ended in many ways. Is that if you're not doing better than the risk-free rate of Ethereum staking yield, why are you doing it?
Oof. Yeah. And I also feel like it's also made projects that are really unique out there. I feel like they stand out more. Back in 2017, when you released anything, when you released Dogecoin or literally anything, that token would pump. There'd be money jumping into it. Wow, somebody's using Ethereum for something. That would be so interesting. But now, uh, I think we have to be more savvy in finding good projects. But once you find a good one, I think it really shines. It's literally a diamond in
Yeah,
a
and
whole
again,
bunch of
it's taking
coal
that risk,
out there.
profile to it and saying, well, I think I found a diamond. I'm only going to allocate a very small amount of portfolio to it because most of these
Mm.
diamonds are rubbish. So knowing that and having that mentality going in
That's it.
is
That's
important
it. That's the word.
as having the investor lens on it. Whereas having the developer lens on it, you can see cool technology, really cool idea, love to use it, but doesn't mean it's going to make money for you.
Mm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's always the clout as well. Uh, there's always the clout of the people behind it, the people pushing it, and even that's no guarantee.
Well, they're
There's all of these
startups.
things that
They're
factor in
startups, and
that
people
make it. I
traditionally know
think.
that most
Yeah.
startups fail.
Mm,
Everyone kind of knows that most small businesses fail. These are small businesses, startup businesses in a new
mm,
technology. Most of them are going to fail, but people get greedy and people really, really want it to succeed. And so they'll often pretend that they're ignoring the
mm.
bad signs on the hope that they actually did get it right. Uh, they might, they might do not though.
Yeah. 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 I don't even know what the last time was when I participated in an ICO. I remember back when you'd get into an ICO and it was you managed to get in because there's so many people who wanted it, and the price of that thing would just keep going up for a while, at least maybe a few months. Now I see ICOs and day one and two, boom, price pumps. Next day, there's the pre-sale investors dumping on everybody, walking away with their money. And then, I guess that's when you really want to see if that protocol is gonna succeed in terms of getting users and the fees translating into appreciation of the token.
Yeah,
It's
well, I
really
think
hard to
ICOs are kind
participate
of
in an
dead
ICO
in many
nowadays, I
ways. I
think.
mean, they were obviously how projects funded themselves. It was like a GoFundMe, really. Here's a white paper, literally a piece of paper, promising to do something. Give me money. That was definitely the 2017 thing. I think ICOs evolved a little bit into
Mm,
saying, "Hey, we've kind
mm,
of built this kind of thing going along now. Now we're at a point where we need more funding, so we're going to release this token." And it was developing. We had to have something going. Whereas now it's VCs. There's VCs in the space now, so there's no direct ICO to the public anymore. Really, anything that's got some legs
mm,
has got a venture capitalist behind it, pumping money into it. And so I probably wouldn't trust any project unless it's not job. There's going to be exceptions to the rule, but in general, I wouldn't trust something that comes straight out with an ICO anymore because anything of merit, there's some very smart people in a venture capitalist
mm.
business who have skimmed over it and rejected it. So it's like, well, if they're not participating, why would I want to do that?
100%. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, there's even these VCs are also tiered in that you've got the likes of, let's say, Delphi and Binance way up there, and then some middle tier, half interesting VCs, and there's VCs who are still richer than most people that are down there, and usually the most interesting projects you see them being pounced on by Delphi because they're probably offering more money and more advice and more clout in terms of marketing and everything. And I guess that is one way to tell which projects might end up being interesting as well. Who's
Of course,
funding it?
it's definitely
Is
like
it
it's the venture capitalist
yeah?
doesn't just bring money to the table; they bring
Is
a
it
lot of
somebody
other
with yeah,
resources
yeah.
and ideas and business methodologies to make it come to fruition. Obviously, they want to get a return on their
Mm,
money, but they are also smart enough to know that they will most likely fail in a lot of these, but they only
mm,
need the 1 in 10 to do really well and then make all their money back. So that's the venture capitalist game. But ICOs,
mm.
yes, if venture capitalists have passed on it and they're going to an ICO,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to bet that I'm not smarter than the venture capitalists. Just putting it out there. Probably
Check,
not
check.
smart.
Yeah, I actually did some research on ICOs, and we're no longer at the point where they used to make money. Like you said, the money is made way back, and it's very few projects who even breach the, let's say, the $1 million mark. A lot of them uh, have really low tier VCs, and I mean low tier. And by the time they hit the ICO, they've made maybe $200,000, $300,000, and that's all they're making.
Yeah, and
And the
we're at a point
token
now
still
where
ends up
you
not
need a
doing so
product.
well.
You can't try and do something and make call in money from retail through an ICO without a product. Whereas the VCs can possibly get in there a little bit earlier than that, but they still you still need to have built something before money starts coming to you. So the days of having absolutely nothing other than an idea are completely gone. No one's going to do that. Like, I wouldn't invest in anything that doesn't have a product out there at the moment demonstrating that it can do what they hope it can do, and it could be fairly early on.
Mm,
And why would you put money into something that's only a dream at the moment when people are building so
mm.
many things all the time?
Oh yeah, yeah. I personally wouldn't. And something that's really telling is a project that has the GitHub and it's public. You don't really have to read the code or even understand it, but you can tell the activity. And you can also tell whether what they have is a fork because GitHub will literally say, this is a fork of that project, except now they're doing it on a layer two or whatever. But then, even if it's a fork, you can see how many changes they're putting on it, how often they're working on it. And a half serious team will at least put an update once a day. Really serious teams, you see updates going up every couple of hours. And that's how you can tell that whether the idea is good or bad, at least they've got a team that's actually dedicated to building something versus just creating a fork and pushing it out there, saying that they've got a product, putting out a white paper with some key differences, like it's on this chain now, or we added this thing now. And yeah, to echo what you're saying, yeah, they definitely did a product,
Has to
and
stand
it
out,
really needs
has
to
to
be
make
different.
a step change in life, has to be disrupting some kind of business, has to be making money,
Yeah.
all these kind of things. The whole concept of businesses in the real world exist for businesses on blockchain. They need to make sense. They need to be changing the way people do things. They need to want to entice people to come and use them. And if they're not ticking any of those boxes, then it's a
Mm,
waste of time. Oh yeah, basically,
100%.
buyer
In other
beware. But
words,
yeah,
buyer
it's still
beware.
it's an exciting space. There is plenty of opportunities out there, and people who want to dedicate the time to it,
Mm,
they can make some significant amount of money. And just because you missed Pepe or whatever the next meme is, doesn't mean
mm,
you don't make money on the next one. There's plenty of opportunities to say no to good projects, but there's plenty of opportunities to say yes to good projects as well. So if you're in the space and you spend a bit of time on it, you can do really well.
mm. 100, 100%, Simon.
Yes, mate. Thanks for your
And
time, buddy.
I guess that covers it for this week's rant. Amazing. Until next time, Simon.
Did, yeah.
That was good.